Hello, my friends. Hello, Jim. Hello, Katharina. And hello, whoever is watching and joining us. We are the Divine Constellation, which is a name that refers not only to us, but to everyone, really, and every being in this universe, because it is a reference to the shared essence of life that we all share. So this little group here is an experiment on exploring that in our relationships and how to share our paths, how to relate with each other with an awareness of that, keeping that in mind and at the center of our interactions. That's why we start with 5 minutes of meditation together to acknowledge and invite that into it's a presence, inviting the presence into the relationship and into the conversation. And then we came up with the idea of doing a podcast. So here it is, first episode. And today we're going to be exploring relationships and how they change once you start opening up to the realization of this shared being, which is quite a dramatic process. And we're going to be sharing our individual experiences of that journey, and I hope it's really helpful to you if you're also undergoing that, because it's very confusing. There's a lot of fear, and we hope that we can bring some company and some light to your process. So, should I go for it?
Yes.
Okay. I think it really started in 2019, so even before the pandemic, when I had a tremendous social crisis. In April 2019, my band just exploded. The band was with my best friend since I was 12, and that relationship also got really darkened. From that, also my whole group of friends. So I lost also my group of friends, and I also broke up with my girlfriend, because why not? I was just cleaning my whole social life in a very painful way, and I said, okay, well, so that forced me to stop complaining about how other people were doing this or that, and to look at myself and say, okay, I just lost all my relationships except my family. The problem is with me. There's something within me that wasn't quite right. And so a lot of lessons start to come during that year of solitude, which, funnily enough, ended up in the pandemic starting. So when the pandemic started and the lockdown started, I didn't notice a difference. I was just home. But now I started to pay more attention within. And through looking within, I started to find guidance. And it was very slow, it was just little by little, but that guidance ended up bringing me to Berkeley. And in my first semester at Berkeley, I just did like everyone else, just making friends, trying to connect with as many people as possible. But my path wasn't about music, it was going to be about my spiritual unfoldment. And in my second semester, after a few years of doing a lot of inner work, one day, out of nowhere, my heart just blew up. It was as if a lightning strike just hit me, actually from the ground up. It was like this really intense energy going up, and it cracked my heart open. And then I saw what was within me that wasn't pretty. And it was so painful to see it that I projected it outwards, kind of. It was extremely complex, but what started happening is that from the darkness that I saw within myself, I suddenly became terrified of everyone. So all the new friendships that I had started at Berkeley, I started to withdraw from them. Some of them also ended in very dramatic ways, because that shift in my heart threw me to another dimension, and suddenly it was just incompatible. So that began a period of a lot of fear. Even some good friends that I had made, people with whom I actually resonated, I would, if I saw them coming down the street towards me, I would cross to the other side. I couldn't, something closed within me, like I felt so afraid of any sort of contact. So for 2 years I only talked with my parents on the weekends, and at Berkeley I just avoided everyone. And it was just walking through the desert, like being in that loneliness and being with that darkness which had been revealed, which was really the ego. It took me a long while to really understand that it was nothing personal. It was just this thing that is in all our human minds, this inheritance of our animal instincts of survival in the world, which will do anything to fight for its survival. So it's pretty dark, what I saw. And so in that darkness, there's a line from Leonard Cohen in Suzanne. And Jesus was a sailor when he walked upon the water, and he spent a long time watching from his lonely wooden tower. And when he knew for certain only drowning men could see him, he said, all men shall be sailors then. No, all men will be sailors then until the sea shall free them. So yeah, I was drowning in a sea of... Yeah, it was pretty dark. But that's when, in that openness of my heart, beyond all those clouds, Christ started to shine. And so that was something new. It was really spectacular when it first started doing that. And so for the next 2 years, I started to walk with that in my heart, starting to realize slowly that that was within everyone else, and that all the darkness that I was perceiving was just a projection of my mind, and I had to forgive myself. I started doing A Course in Miracles. That came to me, and I started doing that. So that's A Course in Forgiveness, in looking for the light in the other. And so for 2.5 years or so, I've been practicing that. This is my third round. It has this workbook of 365 lessons, and I'm on the third one now. And so my daily practice was to walk around Berkeley, notice the fear, try to relax into it, and in every interaction, look for the light, look for Christ in the other. If I was withdrawing, I was not withdrawing from my brother, I was withdrawing from Christ and myself and everything. I was just withdrawing into illusion, into this nightmare. So that was a really slow and painful process. But what has happened is that now I feel very much on the other side. I don't have fear anymore when I walk around Berkeley, not at all. Sometimes I still will feel something kind of like closing a little bit, but I can notice it and I can relax it and I know what's going on. So I'm not in that illusion anymore. But this whole journey of being pretty well, then having this crisis, starting to be well again, and then going into hell, and then walking slowly out of it, has completely transformed what all my relationships are about. And since the human experience is pretty much about relationships, my purpose in this world has shifted radically into something else. I thought I had to be an artist and do music and have a career and do beautiful things, and all of that is great, and I will still do it. But that's not the point. That's just the means for a much truer purpose, which is just to relate with others in that way, to sit here with you and to realize that I'm talking with Christ in this too. And when I say Christ, I don't mean Jesus in a kind of in a Christian way. It's just, I could also say Atman, or the Self with capital S. So this is across all traditions. This is just being with capital B, the Self that we all share the essence of life itself. So I'm just looking for that now. And I've learned that I cannot find it only within myself, but through others, through my relationship with others. And if I forgive you, and forgiveness also is not a Christian thing, it's not a moral thing, it's not like, oh, you've done something bad to me, but it's okay, I forgive you. It's not that. It's just looking at you and saying, okay, what am I seeing now? Am I seeing Jim and Katharina? And what are you to me? What is the mental construct that I have in my mind that I'm projecting onto you? If I say you are that limited being in that body, that's judgment. I am closing you off within that physical structure, and that's not the light. I'm blocking the light. So the depth that this goes to is scary. It's like really abandoning identification with my body, so I can free you from that too, and realize that I'm in the presence of gods, which are only manifestations, kind of like fingers of the one God, and I am that too. And all my relationships are about that now. My intimate relationship is about that, and it's incredibly beautiful how we just recognized each other as children of God, which are not bodies, which are not mortal. And the new friendships that have been coming to me in this transformation are about that too. Sometimes not so explicitly, but it's still there. And now that's what my, I guess, career is going to be about, is to do that and express that through all the means possible, through music, writing. But it's all about reaching other people and saying, you are that, and I am that, and we are that together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, wonderful. It's lovely to hear the story as well.
Yeah, it makes more sense, because I felt like if I start talking about the concepts, kind of like we are one being, and this unity consciousness, we can realize it's just cold. It's not embodied. I have gone through the physical transformation that requires to see that.
Yeah.
It's a whole process of neuroadaptation, of changing your whole neurology.
Yeah.
And your body, everything. Like I don't walk around anymore like this. I was hiding. I was closing. I was so afraid. And now my body is changing to accommodate that new perspective, which is incredible.
Yeah, and it's interesting because each person needs to go through that journey themselves, or beyond that journey themselves, don't they?
Yeah. We are all called.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's that story that you can then retell and recount, and you hear yourself telling that story, and yeah, you know it's your story, but also you're sitting there hearing yourself, and it reminds you just as much as it reminds me of my story and Katharina of hers.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful.
And something that I noticed when you were saying that is that I feel like it was my body expressing that, because all of that journey is in my body. It's kind of, when I said this, it's like it was all visceral. It was not an intellectual thing. It was an intellectual thing until my heart opened, and then I realized that my intellect was worth nothing. You cannot take concepts into reality.
Yeah, it's so true. It kind of gives me an image. So here in Madrid, there's all different kinds of trees, but you get there's a kind of tree that's quite kind of feral, and it just grows by the side of the road, and you don't plant it; it just kind of grows. And here you have all kinds of trees, like really amazing holm oak or pine trees, but you get this particular kind of tree, and it grows next to the side of the road, and it will grow to a certain point, and then it's not able to actually support itself, and so a little bit of wind and one of the branches or half the tree will break and fall off, And I don't know I don't know what it's called, what its name is. It loses its leaves in winter, but I see how, you know, the tree that's not able to support itself and therefore breaks over and over again is it's in a way this tree that doesn't allow itself to go on that path. Everyone sees themselves as forever breaking and forever kind of being wounded, you know, a bit like that tree. But and that's what all of this is about, isn't it? But when we are on that path, we see the branches, or we see that the physical tree as something different, and we in a way become a different kind of tree that doesn't just naturally break at any little bit of wind that comes along. We build ourselves into a different kind of way of being, and it's a continuous path, isn't it?
Yeah, it starts to realize that you are actually the wind. That's what it is. I remember, I think I shared with you guys, and I once played my song "If I Was a Bird," and I realized that it was in our first meeting actually last summer. At the end of our first meeting, I played that song, and I realized that the second verse was a reference to what I'm seeing now, what my purpose is now. But this is a song I wrote 10 years ago, and I had no idea. It was just a moment when I was desperate to know what I should do. I had just dropped out from engineering, and I had no idea what I had to do in life. And there it was. And the verse is, "If I was a river, I would find my own way. Around the trees, they would never notice me. And I would make them rise so tall and proud and fuse with the sky." So the intuition then, it's kind of the same thing about the trees. Like, we're all trees, right? At first, at least. And we are just trying to grow, and each one looking for themselves. But the river is just... I was actually just describing the situation where I was at. I was writing that song in the middle of the countryside, and I could hear a river. There was a small river, but I could not see it. And all I could see was all the trees that were growing right next to it. And this was in Castilla, where everything is just flat and dry, except when there is a river, you see vegetation and trees. So I was in one of those places, and that river gave me that gift. It was like, if I was a river, I would just go around the trees and help them. And they're just looking up, they're just looking up towards the sun and towards their own thing, and how can I compete with the tree next to me so he doesn't take away the sun, and yet the river is just quietly there feeding all of them. So that's it. That's what I am now. It's not just this tree. And that's at the essence also of this constellation here. That's the divine constellation. It's the divine that is in the midst when we get together. It's that sense of calm and joy, of being nurtured, that we are all experiencing now.
Yeah, and it's the coming together of a small group of people who, and we're all on our own path. I think it's very easy in the modern world to decide that we're all going in the same direction, or that we all have the same goal, but there is no goal, is there? And if we all have the same goal, it's going to be really, really boring, and ungenuine. So in a way, what this is, us coming together, the Divine Constellation, it's difficult to describe. It's not. It's unification, but it's not unification, because there are 3 paths here, and 4 when Rebecca's with us. But they're not, but they go in parallel. We're in a way holding hands with one another, each 3 of us walking on our own path, finding our own way, understanding our own way, listening to the others as we go, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And reminding us of that. I mean, for me at least, I could meditate, I could do Qigong, or I could sit here with you. And the effect is the same. It's just tapping into that essence that transcends the individual, and that is just this grace that is there always. And this is a way to tap into that. And through the grace that we give each other. And that we remind ourselves that, oh, that's in me.
Mm-hmm.
And what you say about the goals being different, what I saw was, I think the goal is still the same for the entire universe, which is going back to oneness. But the way that shows up in individual lives is completely different. So the goal of all nature is to grow and expand and to flourish. And I have 3 different orchids right here. Actually, I'll show you. And each is doing its own thing, you know. This one is just trying to survive because it only has 1 leaf and it's struggling. The rest of them are just doing well. They're white and orange, so each of them are doing their own thing, but it's all the same. They're just expressing themselves through that life that is one. So it's kind of the same. I don't know if that was as spectacular as I imagined it to be when I shot it in this camera. Like, they're too tall.
No, but it's nice, and an image always helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose there's 2 parts to this. There's the part of because if we're starting on relationships, well, then the individual is, the you is an important part of the relationship. So like you said, when you went to Berkeley and you didn't want to talk to anyone, or in those moments that we've all had in our life, or we don't want to be around other people, it's because this needs something that it's not getting from that sharing or oversharing or too much sharing or too much sensitivity or too much external stimulation, that there can't be relationships with other people. They can be, but they're usually a mess when there is no learning, or no kind of what am I? What is this? What's actually going on here with me? And when I get a semblance of an idea of that, well, then I can go and talk to other people.
Yeah, and I also feel that listening to you reminds me of when I was going through a similar phase, and of how this darkness that you describe and this kind of reassembling of self and old patterns, structures crumbling, that it kind of feels impossible to connect because nothing is in place anymore. Yeah. And there's this darkness that comes out, and it's like, it feels like the others are so far away, even though they're right in front of me. And there's this, I don't know, a valley in between or something. It's, and I feel like that's how it's meant to be in this process, where everything is just falling apart and rearranging itself, and there's like no fixed point anymore where I can plug into what's outside of me. I don't know where to and how to until it starts making sense to me again. Yeah. And then I can go out in a different way. And there's more, for me, but it was also a long process coming out of it. I feel like I had to start with making more space, internal space for myself and for all my different parts. And when I say all, I mean more and more parts. I'm still in the process of reclaiming and calling home all my parts. And yeah, and then from that space, making space for others again, and for their parts, and then there can be a path for relating again from that standpoint, basically. Yeah, that's how it felt for me, anyway.
Yeah, it reminded me of something that Jim shared with me once in a healing ceremony in his course, and that might be maybe a good image to wrap up our session, because I feel like it encompasses everything that we talked about, especially what you just shared, Katharina. And it's the idea of the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. And this process of the caterpillar starts to surround itself with this cocoon, and then the word that Jim used that has stayed with me, like it just becomes a mush, and it just decomposes inside of that. And then from that pool of genes, a completely new being is formed, and then it breaks out of that cocoon, which actually is a pretty difficult process. Like it has to do a lot of effort to break out of it, but in that effort, it's where it builds the strength of the wings. If you open it up to help it, you just killed it. It won't be able to fly. And so when it breaks up out of that, then it's a beautiful new being and completely different from what it was before. So the difficulty that we have as humans is that we don't have a cocoon, or if we do, it's not as visual and explicit. Like in this process that we underwent of, and that we are undergoing actually, of, how did you say that the disassembling of the self? That's exactly it. Like your structure suddenly, it doesn't work anymore, and you know it, and you suffer tremendously because the world expects you still to behave like a normal individual, but you are not an individual anymore. You're just this pool of genes, this pool of mind, of parts floating and clashing against each other. And I think that actually the fear that I had, for example, of interacting with others, that was my cocoon. I had to figure out things within myself before I could interact with others. So now that I've gone past that journey, I can even feel the love in that fear, which is almost like an oxymoron, but I can see it. That was protecting me in an extremely vulnerable period. Not only vulnerable, I had to do it. I had to go through that desert. The desert fathers, they went into the desert because they wanted to find God, and you need to be alone until you're alone with that, and you can only rely on that. So that was necessary, and I feel that the fear was that cocoon. That's interesting. Just seeing that now. Wow.
Yeah. What I really liked about the cocoon thing is that the cocoon itself doesn't go anywhere. It stays in the same place. So you build this cocoon around yourself, and then everything disintegrates and falls to pieces and then reassembles itself again. And then you come out, but another part of the pain is that you're in the same place. And the new you is trying to fight against the old place.
Yeah.
And there's so many interesting things in that. And then but this is the new me, so I attract new people, or new people are attracted to me. New relationships want to be built. But you can, there are those aspects you can never get away from, like the place you're in. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
And that's a whole nother chapter.
It is.
Yeah, coming out of the cocoon. Yeah.